Alright, I got my first set of goodies for the chopper. It's the old seat, which wasn't bad. You know, it's just kind of not exactly what I wanted. Didn't have any slope to it really to stop you from flying off the bottom there. So I would, when I was riding, I'd have to be like hanging on super tight because I was sliding off. So to replace it, what I got is this. And as you can see, much bigger scoop back there that's going to allow me to not fly off, which is a positive thing. So I got this off a seller on eBay. I'm really impressed with the quality. It was about 160 bucks versus that old one, which was Bitwell, was about 80. So, you know, about double the price, but it's actually leather and it's handmade. And I mean, just look at it. Like, this just looks really good. I'm really happy with this. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna put it in the pivot here and see if it fits in the pivot. Of course it does. It's a standard pivot. And I can basically put it, this is as far back as it'll go, which fits. Oh man, oh, that's so nice. It fits, like, oh, check this shit out. It fits the, come on. It fits the curve of the frame perfectly. Look at that. And it comes in at the same point the frame does. Oh man, that's, oh, I'm super happy about that. That's a win. That's a win. Oh, back you go. Back you go. Okay, you gonna stay? Stay, boy. Good boy. I got some different springs too. I'm gonna kind of lightly put them in place. Now the springs that were on the old seat were, I think, 2.5 inches, and I got some springs that were 2 inches. Because the idea is I want to, being that I have this like lip now, I actually want to sit a little lower because I'm going to be held in place, and you know, I think it'll just look a whole lot better. And now I just hope that the weld that I made here to mount the you know, the springs is going to coincide with, you know, the mounts on the actual seat. So we'll see about that. And also, I really like the hardware that came with this one. I don't even think the Bitwell one came with hardware. But I like the hardware with this one. They used nylon lock nuts, which is a very smart choice when you're dealing with something that shakes as much as the xs650 does. My xs650. So let's do this. Let's just tentatively put that in there. Let's just see if it wants to line up reasonable. So that looks like it's going to line up like right about there, which is not bad. Okay with that. It's better, but what I actually want it shorter than that, if I'm honest. I want it to be almost like right in line with the fender down here. And it's still a little bit off. So if I swap these for and I did see a 1 inch, which is pretty insane to me, but a 1 inch would get me probably, that's 2. I don't even know if 1 would be enough, but 1 would get me like right where I want it, like right there, like nice and low, curves. But this is all aesthetics. Like, let me see how it feels. This is a monumentous day. This bike is now getting worked on. I've moved out the other bike, the FZR, outside, so that this guy can have all the space he needs. it's time to start work. So there's a few things I want to get done today, and I'm going to walk you through them. So let's revisit the seat. Now I got these little 1-inch springs, which I didn't even know they make, but Rika Motors makes them, or at least distributes them. And it actually, if I take out this little dude right here, it actually fits pretty good. Like, that's it with the spring on, and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, is it resting on there? No. Yeah, it doesn't look too terrible. What I would like to do, if possible, that's basically how it would sit, which isn't bad, honestly. That's probably about the best I'm gonna get. Just leave it like that. That's okay, you know? Like, I guess I need to make some, I guess I need to be a little bit more realistic, because what I wanted was it to be like damn near like on level with the frame. But then I lose a lot of comfort because I don't really have a spring to soften anything, so I think I kind of have to deal with it, for lack of a better word. This is obviously much shorter than the 2.5 I had, which had the seat like way up there. So it's an improvement, but what I think I can do to lower it down a little bit more and hopefully, you know, get what I want out of this is these little stays right here. And let me show you. These little stays right here. Now, what I can't do, let me get in closer here. What I can't do is, what I don't want to do is cut it off and then re-weld it so it's like angled back a little bit more. That's not what I want to do. This, frankly, because I really don't want to. I want to keep the welding to a minimum. I'm gonna have to, but if I weld, then the paint's gonna warp, and then I'll have to, you know, repaint the entire frame again, which I really don't want to do. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So what I'm thinking about doing is just cutting down, just getting the grinder out and grinding this seat down until about where that little indent is right there. That's what I kind of want to do, because that'll basically drop the spring that much more, and it'll still have this post here that I can honestly cut a little bit off the top if I want, but it'll have this little post so that I can, you know, still like thread a cotter pin in there and keep it keep it nice and solid. Dropping that little bit, which looks like a 1/4 inch, will get me pretty much where I want to be, I think, because a 1/4 inch will get me like, I want to say like there. Well, we'll see. We'll see when we take all this stuff off. I want to leave, like, this is about as much space as I want to leave, like, in between the rear seat and the rear fender, because it's gonna compress and I don't want to be smacking my butt against my fender, but I do want it to be pretty close and look like really nice and sleek. So that's that. And what I don't want to do is I also don't want to cut down the seat bolts there, because, you know, then you have to rethread it and that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I guess the first thing to do here, and by the way, check out how nice this Plastidip holds up. Like, it really does hold up well. I'm a big fan. The most you'll get is like little fraying like down here. But man, it's tough as shit. I really do like it. The other thing I want to do today is work on my throttle cable. Alright, did a little work with the grinder and pretty much knocked the base down to, you know, about a 1/4 inch to where that little, like, indent was in there. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but I can always clean it up if I like it enough. And also it's, you know, it's a fucking seat stay, like, who's gonna look at that? But anyways, now that it's down a little bit further, now the spring can actually compress and not bottom out on anything, so that's what we wanted. So this is pretty much my height, which I'm happy with. I have no issues with this. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much as low as I can get while still having a, you know, a sprung seat, versus like actually just laying it on top of there and going rigid with absolutely no suspension for my butt whatsoever, which is not what I want. So yeah, this is good. A little bit of compression, that's all I need. Just to make sure that it doesn't ever bottom out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a decent amount of this this post here, and once that, yeah, and I know I took a little bit too much off the one side there. I'll fix that with weld. But the I'm gonna cut it probably like right there, so that there's absolutely no chance of the seat stay like ever, or the stay here like ever hitting the seat on like a super hard bounce. So I'm just gonna knock that off a little bit, and then we should be GTG. So now all I have to do is the other side, and basically I just used my grinder, and then for like the little like bevelly sort of work, I use the Dremel with a carbide tip. This thing works okay as far as the Dremel stuff goes. It's as good as you can get, and I was definitely trying to be as careful as possible not to, you know, have the thing go and hit the frame, and then I have an issue with having to repaint. So no, it worked out good. I just have to knock that other part down and then cut off the top there. I'm done. So we're actually looking pretty good. It's definitely shortened up a little bit. There's a nice even line going here, going from the pivot down to here. So like it's the right height. But I'm running into an issue with this bolt coming down from the seat, bottoming out on the springs. So this bolt is slightly too large, or too long, so I'm gonna have to knock it back a little bit. The hardware I got for this are like big old nylon lock nuts, and when I use them, they're just colliding all over the place. So I'm gonna have to get some skinnier hardware, just like a little jam nut or something, and that should be enough to you know, to make it so the springs still stay on, but they're not, you know, bottoming out. So I think just taking a few mil off of this, I should still be able to thread something on there, and you know, be able to keep the springs in place, because I don't know if you can even see, it's going to be hard for me to replicate me sitting on it, so I'll just sit on it. See what I'm talking about. See that? That's it bottoming out right here. And it's only on this side for some reason. This side, if I really favor it, it'll bottom out over there too. So this is about as much play that I'm going to get riding around. This is going to be pretty normal. So yeah, a little bit more off the top. Alright, took a little off the top of those screws, and I will get a die and rethread them just so I don't have any issues. I think I left myself enough space as well, so that I can put a pretty nice lock nut on there, but simulated riding, no issues there. I am almost hitting the fender, but I do have enough space in here so that if I do go boom, I'm not hitting anything. It's good. This is normal riding, big bump. I'm good. Sweet. New riding position. Alright, so I gotta figure out something with this rear fender for a few reasons. First of all, I'm gonna redo the sissy bar mounts. This sissy bar I don't really, it used to be a sissy bar, now it's just this weird sort of fender brace. I don't like it for a few reasons. One, my welds there are pretty beefy and ugly looking because this just kept snapping when I'd ride it, because this thing is a rough bike. And two, it doesn't line up properly, which caused the chain to rub on the fender. When it was on there, it was kind of like this, so it was a little off center, which means a lot actually. So I'm trying to figure out a way that I can salvage this fender and not spend the extra money to go get a brand new one. I don't want to get a brand new one because they're like $160, especially when I already have a fender that should work. So let's get it off. Long bolts. Just Loctite. Every bolt gets Loctite on this bike. I also kind of liked my stop lamp there. I kind of liked it. You know, I thought it worked in really well and was kind of ingenious. But you know, here's the brace. Sturdy and strong, which was necessary for this guy. Now I'm going to see if utilizing the bottom mount, I can still like run this with not a whole lot of fear that it's going to rub, and straighten it up. Straightening it up is like right there. Actually, it's more like right there. So, yeah, in order to run this fender, I'm going to have to re-drill my mount down here. Let's see if we can show it to you. Right there. This little guy. The bottom mount. It's just a screw, but it's off center. And I think that's where my problem arose in the first place. And yeah, I mean, might put a little washer there, but that would look terrible. I'm not gonna resort to that. The one thing I could do is cut it above this and just drill another hole, and then that would make that shorter, which would basically bring this lip to be right about there, which wouldn't be a straight line with the axle, which is what I wanted. So I'm not sure what I want to do here. I mean, what I could do is I could just elongate that hole down there, because that's not going to be the only mount, and I could use a washer just to help it out a little bit. And then, you know, obviously use the top mounts as like the main mounts and run maybe a modified or maybe a brand new mount, rear mount. Oh, what to do. I don't want to throw this one out. I want to throw it out. Let me take the rear, or the frontmost. Oops. Now where am I? That's good. Oh me. me. This was the first chopper I ever made, so there's obviously gonna be some problems with it. To be expected. Is this a... Oh, this is a 14. It is not. Let me get my 17. Everything gets Loctited. Oh god, it's some middle. Freaking middle bolt. It's not 14 and it's not a 17. Right? That's not fitting. To move around, let me show you a bit of my ingeniousness over here. So, in order to run the wiring up through the fender itself, I'd basically just have this wire sticking down here. It's going from where I routed all the wiring in the frame, came out here, ran all the way up through the inside of the fender, which was, here buddy, I don't know if you can see it, but there's, well, I'll show it to you later once I get this off. Actually, I'm just gonna cut those off. Cut these off because I'll probably rewire them. I'm actually not sure what I want to do for my I'm not quite sure what I want to do for taillight. I don't know if I want to have something down here or put something on top of the fender. I'm not quite sure, but how I ran it, I just made these little metal tabs, welded them in, and just pounded them over and just kind of like laid the wiring right there on the inside of the fender. And it worked extremely well. Never had an electrical issue with the bike. So yeah, what do I do with this fender? I don't know. Let's see. Well, I mean, I know the tire's straight, at least reasonably. I mean, I could always probably adjust it a little bit, but it didn't go out. It looks pretty damn straight to me. At least I think so. Maybe that's a problem. So let's see here. If I had it like, instead like this. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do about this fender. I'm gonna have to think on this one for a little bit. I had an idea I kind of like. So the chain, can you see the chain? No, you can't see the chain. Let me back this up a little bit. Okay, there you go. So I had an idea. I'm basically gonna cut this in half so that and I want it kind of like the fender above the chain a little bit so that I'm not gonna run into rubbing issues. And then probably have it like right about there. I think it'll be cool, and you know, measure it out so that the lip of the fender is in line with the rear axle. So it looks good. So I kind of like that idea because I don't really have any good like, you know, the chain's not going to rub up on the tire. It's just not going to happen. No, that'll never happen. And the wheel might be slightly out of line. I'm not sure. It might be a little crooked, so I can always adjust that. And I will have to eventually adjust that. But what I'm thinking, something I could do, and it will involve welding, which I might just have to say, well, you know, I gotta break that rule, is I can end up making a loop that goes from here, like a loop like this. It does that and then connects to the fender there, and I can reuse the mounting bung either from the top of the fender there. Like I'll basically have a few bungs I can use, and this will, being at like that point, it'll still stop stuff from getting thrown into the carbs, but not into the electronics. Didn't consider that. Yeah, little secret here. Let you guys in on a secret. All of my electronics are stashed right in there. There's my capacitor. That's what I run my bike off of. And all my fuses and shit are up here. There's my starter switch is right here. And it's mounted up to the inside of this. And like everything's kind of nice and tucked away over here. Oh yeah, and it's a jockey shift. That's Mabel. So that's something to consider, isn't it? Because I don't want my electronics exposed to crap. Really, like, what is exposed here? I mean, some of the connections on the capacitor are exposed, but I could just snip those off and get some weather, like insulated connectors, which would solve that problem. And then everything else is shrink wrapped and has loom over it, so that's protected. So maybe maybe I could still do it this way. I don't even have to worry about that. And the weld here wouldn't be that hard. Well, not like it would be hard, but it like wouldn't be, you know, it'd be pretty easy to cover up and redo. I kind of like that idea. And also it'll be interesting just having like a loop there and have a bung coming out to connect it. And then also what that means is that I can actually move the fender closer to the rear seat, so I can get even better clearance on there. I might actually like that a lot more. So I don't know, I kind of like that idea right now, because I don't want to buy another fender when this one was already like friggin' $160. I don't want to get another one, especially when I can just like cut the bungs off that, fill the holes I made with, you know, like a little metal plate, and weld over it, and Bondo it smooth again, you know. So I think that the majority of these videos is just going to be me thinking through problems and basically rambling, because this is what you do with a custom job, you know. You gotta knock a whole lot of ideas around and see what works. But for right now, I like that idea. I'll go to the hardware store and see what I can do about getting a bar that I can bend, because it's got to be, you know, essentially the same sort of thickness as this. And I don't have a bar bender or anything like that. I just have my vise, which has a tendency to break when I try and bend steel in it. But I do like that idea. I do like that, but then also I am exposing my tire to chain goop, which probably isn't that good of an idea. But I do like the idea of closing this clearance here. Well, I'm not going to make a decision today anyways, but, you know, that's what I'm thinking about for the rear fender. Oh, and I'm not going to do anything with the throttle cable today, because I'm still not sure whether or not I want to change my bars up. If I change my bars up, then, you know, I have to modify the cable anyway, so I'll hit that road when I get to it. But yeah, for now, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. Great video, right?